What's some advice you give to someone looking to get into sales?
The idea that sales is run by alpha males and alpha females is wrong. You want to solve problems. Well, you can do that here in sales as well. So that's my advice. The hardest part of the job is if you want to make a lot of money.
So let's expound a little bit on the point of how people in society view sales, right? And I'll give you an example and some context, and then I'd like you to add to that based on your personal experience. So usually when I'm walking into a room and we're getting to some sort of negotiation, somebody will say to me, this adversarial take, oh, you're the sales guy, so how much is it going to be? And what I typically tell them is, listen, I'm actually not a sales guy. You have a problem, that's why I'm here. So if you don't have a problem, then I don't need to be here, right? So my job is to really help you understand what's important to you and help you gain clarity on how you solve your problem. If you tell me that you don't need me, I'll leave, right? Because it's more of a qualification game of someone helping to solve a problem using my intellect more than it is of what society typically shows on TV or the stigma of what the typical sales guy in Hollywood looks like. Can you share your experience of how you think about that?
The reason we have so much stigma across sales is the fact that Hollywood and media has done a horrible job of documenting it in movies and shows. If you can think about every single experience you have in Hollywood as it relates to sales, you can think as far back as Glenn Ross, the original sales movie back in the day with Alec Baldwin, where you actually see how hard the job is. You see guys struggling to make a sale. You see them actually twisting the truth in some cases to make a sale, right? To qualify for a bonus. And then you think about movies like Boiler Room, and you think movies like Wolf of Wall Street, where there's some connotation that the activities that we actually participate in are in some cases illegal, right? So what you find is that Hollywood has done a bad job of not romanticizing sales because they are really going for action, controversy, in a lot of cases tragedy in some of the stories, right? So sales is never really depicted as the hero in the movie, right? That's the reason that there's a stigma. How we overcome that, I think, is understanding that we go after big problems that we can solve, right? So you can definitely get into, retail sales, consumer sales, and it's going to be transactional. So you will still feel some of that stigma because your goals are very transparent. It's immediately obvious to your consumer what your goals are, right? It's very hard to hide those. When you and I go to solve big problems, these are longer sales cycles. They require that we earn trust with our clients, that we help identify challenges, in some cases challenges that they don't see, and that at the end of the day, when you're going to the bottom line, you're identifying value. And more importantly, it's clear, the value is clear to your client. If at the 1 yard line, I still have to document and define where the value is, then either I haven't done a good job of making that clear and making sure that all the challenges and the negative consequences of their existing situation is not addressed by what I'm trying to do, or they just have not understood my approach, right? I think when you're looking at the differences between the stigma, we have to create that line. Companies like Forbes publications, they've got to create that line to say, hey, there are
Forbes.
different types of sales. The guy that's selling you a used car is not the guy that is working with Fortune 100 companies and solving big problems for them via the products and services that they offer. I think it's sad that Forbes has not highlighted that.
2 more questions for you.
Okay.
What's some advice you give to someone looking to get into sales? And the reason why I'm asking you this question is because of the Great Resignation. A lot of people are looking at different careers right now. We both agree that Forbes did a disservice. So if someone did want some advice, what would you give them based on your experience in the field so far?
It's a really interesting place we are in the economy, right? On one hand, you've got the pandemic that we've been dealing with, right? We've got the sort of down effects of all of that. But then you've also got these numbers coming out in sort of the jobs market saying that we've got more jobs than there are applicants to fill those jobs, right? Which is a good problem to have. Our economy is opening back up. And so my advice, the first one is the idea that sales is run by alpha males and alpha females is wrong. We do have those, right? It takes certain personalities in some roles in some organizations, but we also have a lot of introverted salespeople. So we've got people that are not really well versed in commanding a room, but people that are passionate about solving problems, and they find their way into a sales role that helps them focus with maybe one big client, right? With one challenge, and they work on it, and they put their proposal together on how to go and solve that problem, and they call that a sales job, right? So we've got all different types of personalities and people that can get into sales. So encourage everybody to get in. The second thing I want people to consider is that all sales roles are not 100% transactional. This goes back to, what do I think of when I think of a sales job? Transactional, right? Like, people are actually out there just receiving purchase orders and processing them and making sure that they hit quota, right? So complex IT sales and tech sales, like what you and I do for a living, is way more than that, right? The transaction is simple paperwork at the end, right? It's the easiest thing. The hardest part of the job is understanding who your clients are, building trust with them, and then really dig in to find challenges. So if you are excited about finding big challenges and identifying these big problems and solving it for large organizations to the point where it actually moves the needle for that company, or maybe even for that local economy, or for a government agency, then you should get into sales, right? This is probably the same reason maybe you got into engineering, because you wanted to solve problems. Well, you can do that here in sales as well. So that's my advice.